General Secretary Gorbachev, if you seek peace, if you seek prosperity for the Soviet Union and Eastern Europe, if you seek liberalization, come here to this gate. Mr. Gorbachev, open this gate.
In 1985, the Soviet Union was taken over by reformer Mikhail Gorbachev. He abandoned the Brezhnev Doctrine, the Soviet Union's strict policy of upholding communism by interventionist military force if necessary. He instead asked local leaders to seek new ways of getting popular support. Very soon, member nations, such as Hungary, Poland, Romania, and Germany, began to call for change. 4 years later, in 1989, the Berlin Wall fell after East German officials allowed free passage to West Germany. Once the Union officially fell in 1991, democratic companies and capitalist ideals flooded the new market, but not without difficulties. My father, John Dyment, was sent by Harvard Business School to work in Hungary in 1991. He experienced firsthand many of the problems with the shock therapy and old communist traditions associated with the fall of the Soviet Union. One of the companies he helped out was a honey factory in East Germany. This factory epitomizes the woes of a typical post-communist company in the years after the fall. One of the first shortcomings was an irregular work schedule. Many business owners had no clue how to control their laborers with no job security or government dossiers to help check the public.
So I get to factory and I look around and it's empty. Completely empty. It's the middle of the day. Like, what's going on here? Oh, our guys took off, it's a holiday. I said, oh, okay, how long's a holiday? A couple of weeks. A couple of weeks? Well, more, he said. What do you mean, a couple of weeks more? How many weeks have they been off? I think they've been off around a couple weeks before this. So, well, what did they just take off, like 6 weeks in a row? Mm-hmm. Yeah. How many times did they do that a year? Oh, a couple. Okay.
Another factor to the businesses at that time were increased gangster activity and bribes. Many believed that you had to play the game to get anywhere in life, so bribes became a natural part of the culture.
In the back of the plant, I see this giant pool, and it's kind of a nice blue color, phosphorus green kind of color, and it's got a big pipe coming out of the factory. I said, ooh, what's that? I said, that giant pool of green, blue water. And they said, oh, yeah, don't go near that. That's really dangerous stuff. I'm like, what do you mean? Well, that's our waste product. That's the residue from the chemicals that we use in the processing of the honey. I said, you just pump it out the back of your factory into the lake? Yeah. So, well, aren't there inspections that happen? Uh-huh, sure, yeah, there are. Well, I said, don't you have an inspector who comes around and gives you approval to operate your plant? And wouldn't he have a problem with this green, bluish lake that you've created here of radioactive material? It's not radioactive, but it's completely hazardous to your health. It's probably the drinking supply as well, and any animal or anything else that comes anywhere near it, because it didn't look like anything was going to live in that kind of greenish blue water. And he said, yeah, sure. We have the inspector who comes around every year, and we just give him a little money, and he gives us a certification, and off he goes. I said, oh, okay, just like a bribe. I said, that's great. He said, yeah, that's the way business is done here. Do you understand that? It couldn't be done without that kind of methods. It's just always the way it's been done here.
This clip also shows how the environment was abused by these newly free industries. Everybody was so focused on protecting their investments and keeping a stable business to keep a job and make a profit that the environment was used as a dumping ground, or in the case of lumber companies, a treasure trove of natural resources from which they believed they were entitled to take everything. The people of the newly capitalist region also had very little knowledge of democracy and capitalism because communist leaders had banned teachings and books of these principles during the USSR's reign. They picked up bits and pieces as they went along, but for a long while, They were slow, unorganized, and unproductive.
Was the fact that they had no concept of this, what I would say, cost of capital. They had no concept of financing inventory. And why is that important? Because they were very proud of one thing. They said, don't worry about us producing the honey. We produce just enough to get by. But our biggest and proudest thing we have is we have enough food for the bees for 5 years. I said, really? Wow, that's terrific. Show me that. And I looked out, and if you've ever seen that movie Raiders of the Lost Ark and you saw that big end picture where they go into the warehouse and there's like for everything you can see, and as far as you can see, they had barrels. And in the case of the movie, they had boxes, but here they had barrels of feed for the bees, as far as you could see, forever, off in the horizon in a huge field, covered in barrels, food for the bees. And I said to the guy, let me ask you one question. What's it costing your business to keep all of 5 years of food for the bees? And couldn't you put that money to work by only having 1 month's supply in food for the bees, to maybe employ your factory workers for more time so that you could actually produce more honey? And that concept to him was totally foreign. He had never thought about the fact that maybe you could reduce your cost of goods sold, which is your raw materials, and make your plant a lot more efficient and being able to pay your factory workers a lot more.
This honey factory shows the typical problems experienced by Eastern European businesses in the 1990s. There were problems with work schedules, environmental hazards, bribes, and a lack of knowledge of capitalism. It took many years for companies like this one to expand and shake off their authoritarian traditions and switch to the West's capitalist mindset.